you can't be afraid. You got to be really out there. You got to go and talk to people, because I didn't care about anything. You know, if I want to photograph somebody, I go and photograph them.
Hello, and welcome to the third act. I'm Catherine Fairweather. Richard Young is our foremost, much-loved celebrity photographer, with the energy of a young bull still haunting London's party circuit after 4 decades, shooting the capital's cafe society at its most glamorous and unbuttoned and unaware. Today, the energetic 70-something-year-old is, in his third act, reassuringly part of the very fabric of the society which he photographed, a recognisable fixture, much like the stars such as Kate Moss, Tracey Emin and Sir Elton John, with whom he is on first-name terms. He has published 4 books of photography which had conjured London society at its most vibrant. I'm excited to invite him to Orient's to share the details of his colourful life. Welcome, Richard Young. It's wonderful to see you, Richard Young. So young by name and young by nature.
Yeah, forever young.
Forever young, forever green. I mean, it is a young man's game, the photography. In fact, I think this is the first time I've ever seen you sitting down. You're always
standing
late
up.
Nights, standing. So
it's been late nights for nearly 50. Next year will be 50 years that I've been a photographer. I got into photography very soon after I came back from living in America, which was 1973. I was just messing around doing street photography and not famous people, just things that I saw and liked and took. And I didn't know anything about the camera at all. So I was teaching myself to be a photographer. It all started with a lovely man called Geoffrey Quintner. He owned a bookshop in Regent Street called a Village Bookshop. He assumed, for some strange reason, that I knew about photography. I didn't know a thing about photography. And he gave me this Nikon camera and sent me out to the West Country with a list of architectural places he wanted me to photograph. And I went down to Dorchester, and it was all based on Thomas Hardy. And I went to all these places and photographed, supposedly thinking I was photographing it. I had no idea about aperture, film speed, ASA, anything. So anyway, I came back to London with my 3 rolls of black and white film, and he had them processed, and he came into the bookshop the next day holding them up to me like this, going, hello, where are the images? There were no images. He said, I thought you knew about photography. No, you never said to me, did I know anything photography? You thought I knew about photography, and you gave me the camera and sent me off. He said, well, you've got 6 weeks to learn how to use it, how to use the camera. And if you don't know, you're out of a job. So he gave me the camera back, and I spent the next 6 weeks or so going into every single camera store in the West End, asking the hire department, how do you work a Nikon camera? Everything that I need to be told. And anyway, I got the hang of it, strangely enough. And I thought, this is great. This is so sexy. I mean, I'm not going to let this one go, because this could be the beginning of something very big in my life. And you never know where it's going to take you. I was living in a little bedsit just off Ladbroke Grove. And the people next door to me all worked for an American magazine, London-based American magazine called Rolling Stone, the English edition. And Craig Peters, who was the London editor of Rolling Stone, said to me, we got someone coming in this weekend to do a cover story, and his name was Paul Getty Jr., who's just been released by the mafia with his ear chopped off and everything. So they said, look, come and have lunch with us in the Hard Rock. All these people are coming with us, so, bring your camera, and we'll do some pictures. So we went over Hyde Park on our way to the Hard Rock Cafe, and Paul and Martine, his fiancée, he's only 17, and we did some photographs. And he said to me, I'm going back to Rome on Monday. Don't do anything with the pictures until I leave the country, because I don't want anybody trying to find me or anything. So Craig and I held back on the photographs until the Tuesday morning, and we went to the Evening Standard. And I said, no, I got a roll of film that you might be interested in. They all look at me like, yeah, sure, Okay. I said, yeah, it's Paul Getty Jr. in London with his ear. And my hair was like down here and my beard was down there, and they all looked like I was probably someone homeless looking for some spare cash or something. I thought they were going to have a whip around. Shop that had just been released by the mafia in Rome and everything. That film was snatched out of my hand.
What a coup.
And they processed it and they printed it, and everything came out, surprisingly. And it went in page 1 and page 3 of the Evening Standard that night, on News on Camera, and with a byline, and Craig got his byline for the words. And that was the beginning of my relationship with the Evening Standard, and that was 1973.
And that was the beginning of your career.
Mm-hmm.
Extraordinary. I love stories like that. But that what you said, that as you were relating it, the important element that I think made you as a photographer was, he said to you, Getty, I'm going to trust you not to do something with these photographs until I give you the go-ahead.
Yeah.
So that element of trust was there from the very beginning, and you have been trusted by celebrities.
Absolutely.
And that's the secret of your success.
That's very, very important.
Yeah.
And where this young Paul Getty was concerned, who became a very close friend of mine, I was invited to his wedding to Martine, which was in a little village called Orgia, which was in the hills of Tuscany. And that's a very funny story because we got there a day late.
You did. You got there a day late for the wedding.
Craig was sorting it all out, right? What happened was we flew into Pisa, drove to Siena. We thought the wedding was the next morning, but in actual fact, the wedding party was that night. But we never went up to the villa. So we stayed in Siena that night and drove up to the villa very early in the morning, only to find everybody sleeping around the pool. And, and people saying to us, well, where were you last night? The wedding was last night. I'm going, and the Daily Express, in actual fact, were paying for the trip. So Craig had to go into Paul's bedroom, get him up with Martine, put their wedding clothes on, right?
And they agreed?
Yeah, they did it. And early, I think it was about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, she had her wedding dress on that she wore the day before, and Paul was looking rather, very presentable. And we did some pictures in the woods going towards the town. We left them, got in the car, drove to Pisa, got back to London, went to the Daily Express and went, right, there's the wedding. They said, and the picture editor said, we saw it last night on PA. I said, that was the rehearsal.
Yes.
This is the real thing.
Did he believe you?
They believed us. They ran it. But in those days, you could get away with that because, it wasn't digital. It wasn't coming across on the wire or on their computers or anything where they've seen a zillion images per day. And there would have been a zillion photographers there, but there wasn't.
So you were flying by the seat of your pants quite
absolutely.
a lot.
Oh, my God. And because they were paying for the plane fare and the hotel and everything and the car hire, and, so we had to really kind of just take our chances on this one. But it worked. We got away with it.
And was he a poor little rich boy? Was he sweet?
Yeah, I'll tell you something about young Paul Getty. He was absolutely delightful. Martine's delightful. She's still alive. Paul died some years ago. I was the only photographer, but didn't take a camera with me, that was invited to Walmsley, their country home, where the funeral was, because of my friendship with Paul over the years. And he went through some very strange stuff. Anyway, they knew that. They respected my friendship with him. And I stayed friends with the family ever since. I still am.
That's incredible, isn't it? And so was there ever a moment when you were doing the paparazzi thing of actually doorstepping, going around trying to snatch photographs?
I loved all that period.
Where was that, the 70s and the 80s?
That was from about 73 on to about 1980, 82 maybe.
Yeah.
And one night I was at Langan's with my wife-to-be, Susan, and we had dinner, and somebody was in the restaurant and I wanted a photograph with a chap. I don't know if it was, I'm not even sure that it was a boyfriend or anything. But anyway, they left and I tried to ask them as they were leaving, can I do a picture outside? And they said no. Well, back then I didn't really take no as an answer. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And it turned into a quite an embarrassing situation, a little bit of,
argy-bargy.
Push it. Yeah, that's a good way of describing it. And my future wife was standing on the step of Langan's watching all this going on. And she said afterwards, and we got the pictures and everything, she said, if I ever see you work like that ever again, forget about me. I don't that's not the man I want to marry.
Really?
I want to marry a mensch who gets invited to everything and is inside everywhere, you know what I mean, working properly. And that's what we changed at that time. We changed it all around, and that's what we became, and still am to this day.
So that's how it changed. And you never got in a fight again?
I never got into a fight again, although there could have been one or two little occasions where it was a little bit tricky.
So, being invited to these events, were you starry-eyed? Were there any celebrities you were personally starry-eyed about? Or being so close to them, do you see them walk?
Well, we did... probably one of my favourite periods, I won't say the best period, but one of my favourite periods, because they were my favourite parties, was the Vanity Fair Oscar night parties.
Yeah.
And they stretched from year 2000 to 2010. And I did 10 years of them, and you go to Morton's on Oscar night, and you go in there at 3 o'clock in the morning because Graydon Carter will have his viewing party, and you'll be in there photographing everybody for Vanity Fair. And you're there from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till at least 4 o'clock in the morning. And you'll be the only photographer wandering around photographing all these people. And now, not one person over the whole 10-year period never went like this to say, don't photograph me, because if you're there, they know you're there for a reason, and they know you're there for the magazine. And it was just one of the best things I ever did. And there was one night, I can't remember what year it was, maybe 2003 or 2004. I've always been a big fan of Joni Mitchell. And I could see her in the distance. She's got a cigarette in one hand. And I went over to her. I said, don't change the pose. And she looked at me. She said, just get on with it. All right, no, thank you very much. Yeah. So we had a little chat, strangely enough. And this was 2003. I said, you won't remember this, Joni, but in 1990... we were doing the Wall concert in Berlin, right, with Roger Waters. And I said, we were all backstage in the Hard Rock Cafe, and you photographed me on your camera. She said, no. I said, yeah, I got pictures of you photographing me backstage at the Wall concert. She said, oh, okay.
The iconic images that I remember particularly were, that famous one of Princess Diana spilling her cleavage out of the car. That was right at the beginning.
I love that picture.
Yeah.
It was her black taffeta dress as she got out that car. And that was an interesting evening because they were going to a charity evening in one of those livery halls in the city. And it was pouring a rain. I'm on the curb with all these royal photographers who were pushing me more and more into the road because they thought that when the car arrives, the door is going to open this way and she's going to get out, and no one knew what she was going to be wearing. But in actual fact, the vintage, the Rolls Royce that they came in, the door opened in the opposite direction. So where I was positioned, I got it right down the barrel, so to speak. That was the last time that she was allowed to wear something like that, so whatever. And
really?
Yeah. Then she had to have a clutch bag every time that covered her breast.
I just remember that all over the papers at the time. I remember it became a sort of iconic image of her.
I remember going back to the Daily Express for that picture, and the night picture editor said, so did you get anything? I said, I think I got the picture of the night. He said, yeah, okay. He said, like the staff photographer missed it, you know what I mean? So anyway, so I processed my film there and showed it, and they went, oh, front page.
Very good. What are you looking for when you've taken a picture that's going to be your front pager?
Oh yeah, you know it. You sense the magic. We've had so many publications over the years of just magical pictures. I mean, as I say, I've been doing it nearly 50 years. I mean, I've enjoyed every single second of it. It's been great. I've been so fortunate to have met my peers who I've always respected and loved. And working with them, like Don, like Bailey, like David Montgomery, and who I like very much, and all these American photographers who I like very much, who have been doing the same thing I've been doing for years. And then there's these other photographers that I love, which sadly they're no longer with us, and they were alive years and years ago. Dorothea Lange.
Oh yes.
Yeah. And Ouija and Latigue.
Yes.
And all these people, which I was very fortunate to meet. So There's lots of photographers that I really, really love. And Diane Arbus. I just love Diane Arbus' work.
Yeah, and were you inspired by these people's
Yes.
images?
I was inspired by Bailey, and I'll tell you the reason why. In 1976, I get a phone call from Ritz, and Bailey's saying to me, come on, would you come to this meeting with myself and David Litchfield? We're looking for a photographer who's going to do all the gossip pictures, all the nighttime stuff. I went to see him and Litchfield, and we sat down, and they said, well, you're going to be working with this girl called Frances Lynn, who I adore. She's mad as anything, but I love her. She has such a great sense of humour. But she was just the kind of person you need to have with you when you work on those kind of jaunts and every night going out somewhere, because, you can't be afraid. You've got to be really out there doing what you got to do. You've got to go and talk to people. So she certainly wasn't inhibited by not being able to talk to anybody. She spoke to everybody and got good stories, and we got good pictures, because I didn't care about anything. If I want to photograph somebody, I go and photograph them out. But, again, the trust thing came in, and I did feel that I always had to ask people before, can I please photograph you?
Did you? That's
Yeah, I did. And they respected that. I thought it was important because I think you get a better picture out of them. Not just standing there like some photographers do with a champagne glass, and it's a very straight up and down picture, which is so boring.
So boring.
Oh, God. And there's certain photographers who don't know any other way of kind of creating an image that is going to be in your mind for the rest of your lives. You know what I mean?
It's not the champagne glass picture for sure.
That's not going to be the champagne glass picture. It's like when I gate crashed Elizabeth Taylor's birthday party.
Did you?
Back in the early days.
When was that?
It was 1974. The Evening Standard said to me, would I go to the Dorchester, try and see if you get a picture of Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton, because it's his 50th birthday party. So I went to the Dorchester. There was only 3 or 4 other photographers there. They're all kind of staff photographers in their trilby hats and trench coats. And you knew it was at that time, all they wanted to do was go home. And then this lovely lady who was the PR for the Dorchester, who later became a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Marjorie Lean. And she came out, she said, sorry, chaps, you're not going to see anything. They're not going to come out. Well, would you all mind disappearing? Now, she was standing with a young lady, a young girl, and she wandered off through some glass doors. And me being cheeky as I was, and I am, I followed. And as I walked through these empty rooms, there were some waiters sitting on my right-hand side, and they said, are you with the band? Because my beard was down, my hair was down, and I looked reasonably presentable that night. I know I had a corduroy suit on. I don't know why, but I did. And they said, through that door there, because I said I was with the band. And they couldn't see any bags or anything, and all the one camera I had was on my left shoulder. So I wandered through there, and the only person in the room was the DJ. His name was Peter. And on the mirror it said, happy 50th birthday, Richard. So I went over to Peter, and I told him, don't split on me, I'm gate crashing, I'm from the Evening Standard. And he said, right, well, this is how the records work, this is it, there's the records, there's the turntables. It was all Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, all that kind of growing up stuff that maybe Richard Burton was into, And then I've become the assistant DJ. So everybody else has gone, disappeared, and I'm left there to do all the music. And what's happened was that 50 or 60 of Richard Burton's guests and family, all from Wales, came in, right? And they sat down. Everybody had dinner. Liz Taylor's on the top table, plus a lot of their close friends. And I didn't do any pictures until after the dinner. The waiters, all in their in their tails and bow ties, wheeled in this big silver trolley with this massive big birthday cake on with 50 candles, and Liz Taylor and Richard Burton came to the centre of the floor, started kissing and hugging each other, and then they'd blown out the candles, and they didn't see my flash because all the other people's flashes were Instamatics, but Liz Taylor knew there was a professional flash in there somewhere, but she couldn't see it, right? So I did about 10 pictures, knowing that I got it, right? Knowing it was in the can. And I went back to where Peter was. He's now come back, and I was standing there. Now Liz Taylor's got up and walked over to the dance floor and is dancing with some chap. I don't know who he was. And I went over there. I went bang. She broke off dancing, came over to me. Her nose touched my nose. She couldn't make a big scene about it because there was too many people. And she said to me, "I don't know who you are, but get out of here now." I left. The pictures went global. On the proceeds of those pictures, I bought my first house in Notting Hill.
No, Richard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did she ever find you again?
Well, what happened was, I knew I was going to get the call. And Marjorie Lee rang me from the Dorchester saying, giving me a real dressing down, right? And I knew it was going to happen. So I just took it on the chin. But I knew what the last words were going to be. Would it be possible that we can have some prints so we can send them to Miss Taylor in Los Angeles? I said, no problem whatsoever. And I remember that afternoon I went to a printer, then we made up 10 pictures, very big 15 by 12s, black and white pictures, boxed them up, took them over to the Dorchester, and they sent them off to Los Angeles.
So she liked them?
She loved them.
Oh, hooray, what a relief.
And
she looked glorious.
About a year and a half later, I was outside some address in Chelsea where I found out she was staying. And she came out and she said to me, she said, "Mr. Young, you were very, very cheeky, but thank you very, very much for sending the pictures. They were fabulous. And Mr. Burton loved them too." And that was the beginning of a long, long friendship. And the climax of our friendship was, in year 2000, I got a phone call from her attorney in Los Angeles saying, "Are you in London next week? Because Miss Taylor's coming in to get a damehood from the Queen. And she would love you to come to the Dorchester Hotel for the luncheon and do all the official pictures of her with her family." And I did. And it was fantastic.
And was she one of your favourites? She was
definitely one of my favourites. You know, we had a very nice relationship, and to be kind of asked to do that particular luncheon and everything with her close family was a privilege.
I think Freddie Mercury was another one of your favourites.
Oh, yeah. Freddie, mustn't forget Freddie. Now, Freddie Mercury, I started working for Freddie Mercury back in New Year's Eve 1978, and I didn't stop working for him until the day he died. He was a delight. Well, the whole band was a delight. I enjoyed working for Queen, and I got invited to all these video shoots that they were doing for various pieces of, tracks of their music. I went to all of Freddie's birthday parties from when I first met him. They were amazing. I mean, the most important one was his 39th birthday party in Munich, where I had to dress up in drag.
Did you?
Yeah, and we all had nicknames in the inner circle, and mine was Muriel.
Yeah, I read that.
I became Muriel Young.
So that was the heyday, really, wouldn't you say, the sort of 80s, late 70s, 80s?
Oh, the best was the late 70s, the 80s, and the early 90s.
Yeah.
The minute we got to the late 90s and someone was throwing computers at me and scanners and modems and all these kind of cables at you. I mean, the Daily Express gave me this big metal box, and the picture just said, "Now take this home and learn how to use it. Then we don't have to see you ever again."
Yeah.
I go, "What do you mean you don't want to see me again?"
You kept on with a film, did you?
I kept on with the film. I mean, I had this camera sitting at home, £20,000 camera, which Nikon had given me, which was the body of the camera, and then there was this big piece at the bottom, which was made by Kodak.
Yeah, but I suppose the Instagram age also made your life slightly difficult, didn't it?
I like Instagram. Instagram to me is a shop window, and we do very well with Instagram because I have people that service it for me maybe once or twice a week. We put up pictures, we're always kind to everybody, we always wish happy birthday to everybody, and that's great because if you're nice to everybody, which is not difficult to do, it's very simple. Be nice. Don't be a wise guy, be a nice guy.
But at the same time, didn't the Instagram age, or the era of selfies and Instagrammers, didn't that sort of take away your power a little bit?
Yeah, but, times have changed and, everybody's got a mobile phone, everybody's taking pictures of everything. So, it is what it is. And I'm not worried anymore.
Are you still going out every night?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I am. Well, most nights. I went to a lovely private dinner last night, which I wasn't working, and it was just very nice to be invited to these private things and dinners and things, and the food was absolutely exquisite, and so was the wines.
And so how have you managed with all this going out and late nights? How have you've got a very good marriage, I know. How have you managed to keep that going?
I've been married now to the beautiful Susan for 35 years and together 37 years. I mean, it's like ships passing in the night, because in the period from 83 to about maybe 2 or 3 years ago, she never really ever saw me. It was only been like being in a 10-year marriage. But since I've been spending more time, well, doing whatever I want to do, we're together much more. And I'm actually beginning to enjoy my life more now than ever before.
Why is that?
Because I've got more time on my hands. And, you know, all the best pictures have been taken. All the best people have been photographed.
And so you've really got nothing more to prove, so that enables you to be quite relaxed.
I got my back catalogue, and the back catalogue is serving me very, very well in many ways. People still want it. People come to my gallery and they buy pictures of limited edition pictures of people like Freddie Mercury, who's probably one of the biggest selling artists in the world where photographs are concerned.
What are you going to do next?
Well, I'm 75. Since I've had my Lulu procedure earlier this year, they said to me I've got 20 more years. So when I'm still walking around at 95 taking pictures outside Langham's, I'll let you know.
Oh yeah, well, Langham's was your great hunting ground, wasn't it?
Yeah, we enjoyed Langham's. Langham's was a great place to be.
Yes. Is there a new Langham's?
No, there would never be another place that would be Langham's as it was in the 70s and the 80s and 90s.
Well, San Lorenzo was quite good.
Well, San Lorenzo is another one that was one of my favourite places. You know, those two restaurants really were the anchor of London's cafe society.
I remember, yeah.
Wilton's,
those days.
My favourite restaurant in the world is Wilton's.
Oh, well, on the subject of which, pretend we're having our last supper.
Right.
Who would you have around the table and what would you eat?
I'm very partial to caviar, Iranian caviar. I would have that to start with this chopped onions, because it just adds a little bit of flavour, red onion. Main course, I'd probably have the Dover sole with mainly salad, probably.
Yes.
Because I don't like eating too much potatoes and things. And then for my dessert, I would love, I know this sounds absolutely crazy, but I had it in a restaurant not so long ago, not far from here actually, crepe Suzette.
Oh, lovely.
You know, and they
very retro.
And they flare it. Oh yeah, that it was absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
And who would I invite?
Yes. Who would you pop from your wife? Obviously.
I would have Charlie Chaplin, W.C. Fields. I would have the Dalai Lama. So it has to be vegetarian for him, all right?
Yes.
And Bob Dylan, but I won't talk to him about his music. I want to know who dresses him and who puts his clothes together. Jean Harlow and Marilyn Monroe.
And say at this fascinating dinner party that you've created and you choke on a fishbone.
Yeah.
And that's the end of Richard Young. Would that be enough for you?
I'd probably be cremated, and I'd like to be scattered round by a Monument Valley.
I love the way you think so big. That's great.
Yeah.
You're going to be scattered
I want to
in
be scattered in Monument Valley,
yeah.
You know, near the Navajo, reservation or somewhere, because I'm so into that kind of thing.
So you believe in an afterlife?
Depends. Sometimes yes and sometimes no. But I feel sorry if I did come back again. I think they've had enough of me.
One Richard Young is enough.
Yeah, one Richard Young's enough. God, at any one given time.
And what are your tips for getting older better?
Gracefully. Spend money on cashmere.
Yes, I agree with that. That's a very good... And I was very entertained to read also, as a sort of final note, that you won the first award from the Champagne, Prix du Champagne the Joie de Vivre.
That's right.
Award.
I won the first one.
Award for joy, for adding to the sum of joy.
The joy that you put into your pictures and what you what you bring out in your photographs by making people look like they're having a great time and they're happy.
I mean, what an accolade, and I think that's sort of the best way we can end this.
Sure, but I think one of the best accolades was becoming a doctor from the UAL, University of Arts of London, when they made me a doctor. And I had to go on stage at the Royal Festival Hall to collect my diploma and wear this coat of many colours and a big velvet hat. And I'm standing there thinking to myself, breaking out into tears, God, if my dad and my mum could see me now becoming a doctor of photography, I mean, it was bizarre.
Well, here's to a life incredibly well lived, adding to the sum of joy in our lives and to another 10 years of joy. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed today's show, you can hear more episodes by clicking follow wherever you're listening to this, or simply searching The Third Act on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and YouTube. And if you think your friends would love to listen, please tell them about us. This episode was produced by Pete Norton and Holly Fisher and made possible by Orions, luxurious residences that are redefining later living in the heart of Chelsea. I'm Catherine Fairweather, and I can't wait to join you next week for another episode of The Third Act.